Hello, scientists. Today we're going to talk briefly about where living things live. Our big idea for this lesson is that every living thing requires a specific set of environmental factors to survive and reproduce. Let's start by talking about what these factors are. The first set of factors are what we call abiotic factors. An abiotic factor is any non-living aspect of an ecosystem. This includes things like sunlight and temperature patterns, precipitation, which is rainfall, humidity, wind and water currents, soil moisture and pH, and so on. Some of these things like sunlight, temperature, precipitation, humidity, and wind currents are what we might think about as weather. We'll think about weather as those conditions on a single day or in a single moment, but when we talk about where living things live, we might talk more about climate. Climate is the average weather patterns that an area sees over long periods of time. Contrasted with abiotic factors are biotic factors. You can see that the prefix here, bio, is like biology, which means that it's about living things. So biotic factors are aspects of an ecosystem that are associated with living things. This includes the living things themselves, like animals, plants, fungi, and microorganisms, and also other aspects that are related but not directly living things. So this is like how much food is available, how much competition each organism experiences for resources, how much predation there is, how much grazing there is, and if there is disease. We'll talk a lot more about resources coming up, and we'll think about this as just anything that's necessary for life. It could include water, nutrients or food, maybe light, space, things that living things need to survive. So when we're thinking about where an organism lives, it will need to have some set of abiotic and biotic factors in which it can best survive and reproduce. We'll start by talking about where living things live on the small scale. So a habitat is the general location where an organism lives. One organism that I recently learned about are Kihansi spray toads. Kihansi spray toads' habitat is the base of one waterfall in Tanzania. This is the only place where they live. Other organisms might have multiple habitats, multiple places where different members of that species live. But this is the area. You can think about it like maybe an address where an organism lives. Another word we'll talk about is niche. A niche is the conditions and behaviors needed for a species to survive and reproduce. So my Kihansi spray toads needed a lot of moisture, they needed the spray from the waterfall, they needed the tropical conditions, and they probably also needed to behave in a certain way in order to find food and survive and reproduce in that specific habitat. Next, we'll look at the larger or bigger picture of where organisms live. And we call these large geographical regions of the Earth biomes. So they're areas of the Earth that share similar abiotic and biotic factors. And I'm going to list them here for you just so that you have the set of them and you can refer back to this list when you're thinking about what biome we might be talking about in the future. So we have terrestrial biomes or land-based biomes. These include the boreal forest, coniferous forest, desert, savanna, temperate grassland, temperate woodland, tropical dry forest, tropical rainforest, and tundra. My Kihansi spray toads, they live in a region that historically was tropical rainforest, but it's actually changed as the climate has changed, so that basically it's a savanna, and then there are mountains, and the mountains in that area, once you get above a certain elevation, they're tropical rainforest. So the toads live in the rainforest, which is surrounded by the savanna. We also have aquatic biomes or water-based biomes. These might be freshwater, like bogs, lakes, marshes, streams, and swamps. They might be estuaries, which is where marine and freshwater biomes meet, and it's sort of an in-between space. So these might be salt marshes or mangrove swamps. And then we have marine or saltwater biomes, which include the intertidal zone, the coastal ocean, and then the open ocean. And we also might see that within the open ocean at different depths. We have different sets of abiotic and biotic factors. So let's look at an example of the abiotic and biotic factors of a particular biome. I've chosen the boreal forest. And a few abiotic factors are the climate. The boreal forest has long, cold winters. It might even get as low as negative 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And the summers are shorter and milder. They're probably getting up to like 60 or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. There's moderate precipitation and high humidity, and the soil is characterized by being acidic and not having great nutrition. Some of the plants that I see in the boreal forest are conifers, that's a type of tree, like spruce, pine, and fir. I also see other trees like birches, aspen, and poplar that have broad, larger leaves that are better at capturing the sunlight because there's less in this part of the world, and blueberry bushes. And then for animals, I see moose, caribou, beavers, hares, mice, fox, lynx, bears, otters, cougars, and owls. And then a couple of examples, places in the world that are boreal forest, are Alaska and regions in Russia. In your notes template, you have a box below this where you'll have the opportunity to research one of the biomes listed on the previous slide and learn a little bit more about it. You could set up your template like this with climate, precipitation, humidity, soil, etc., and then plants and animals. You could include fungi if you wanted. But I would think about what's a favorite place that you've been, or a favorite place that you want to visit, and then think about what biome that place is in, and then go from there. So take a few minutes now to do some research, learn about one of the biomes, and then fill in that second template on your notes sheet. That's it for today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below.